Welcome back, everyone. This is MTG Magic Johnson, and today I'm going to be doing something a little different today. Instead of my normal unboxing videos, I'm going to be doing a breakdown of a commander deck that I've put together and have played with several times. I'm just going to go over what's in the deck, what the objective is, and how you win and stuff like that. Today, the commander that I'm focusing on is Thada Adel Acquisitor, and it's a 3-drop, 1 colorless or mana of any color, 2 blue, and it has Island Walk. It's a 2/2. When it deals combat damage to a player, search that player's library for an artifact card and exile it. Then that player shuffles his or her library until end of turn. You may play that card. This is a card that it's not a huge threat to people normally that I've played against. They don't care about it too much, but if they have an island, it's maybe kind of slightly annoying to them because they can't block it. So you can take whatever artifact out of there. The only reason that people find this to be kind of annoying sometimes, though, I guess, is people don't tend to like it when you play their cards. So if you watch this and you want to build this yourself, just keep that in mind. Sometimes people really hate those types of things. It's not a competitive deck, really, in any means. It's not gonna maybe win a ton. It kind of depends on the decks you're going up against. This deck doesn't. I haven't really won a lot of games with it. It's just really fun to play. When I first put it together, I really wanted to make it like a really good deck and just, win consistently like some of my other decks that I have, some of my tier 1 decks and stuff. This is not that. I got frustrated with it for a short time and took it apart, and then my play group was like, they kept asking me to, why don't you play that deck? It's really fun and, to play against and stuff. And so I ended up putting it back together. And now I just kind of realized that, you're not going to win too often with it, but it is fun. It has some really interesting interactions sometimes. So, yeah. Basically, the idea of it is to just steal everything or steal, the threatening cards on the board or make copies of them or, whatever, and then kill your opponents with those cards. So there's a lot of creatures in here that do those types of things. There's enchantments, artifacts, stuff like that. Originally, when I first put this together, I had the commander Empress Galena was my commander. It's a 5-drop. You tap it to take control of target legendary permanent. And that I don't remember the power and toughness of that one, but I found that most of the time I didn't put that creature into play a lot of the time because I have a lot of other cards that do similar things, but it's not just specific for legendary permanents. So this, I feel like this is a better commander. This used to be in the deck, one of the 99, but now it's the commander. I feel like it's a better card. It has Island Walk. It costs 2 less. You can pull things out of their decks that weren't on the battlefield, where the other one, you kind of had to wait around and see what they're going to play and then try and steal something. Everyone sees that coming, kind of. And then a lot of times there were not targets for, legendary permanents that, they either didn't have any or they're ones I didn't really care for or really want to steal. And I know there's cards that make other things legendary and stuff like that, but that's another card that, it really doesn't do a whole lot of good unless your commander's in play. This deck doesn't really need to have my commander in play to really do anything. So, like the things I want to do with it. It kind of helps, but, that's, yeah. The other card focuses solely on having your commander out in play. Otherwise, it doesn't really do anything for you. So yeah, this card though, I typically will play this, as early as I can. Try and swing at someone that's either open or can't block me. Steal some of their mana rocks, like their soul rings or something, to try and ramp. so I can play a lot of other spells. So typically this is just in play just so I can ramp. I can get my soul ring or something and then steal the soul rings, because typically a lot of commander players have soul ring in their deck. At least that's what I've noticed and seen people play. So a lot of the times, they will have that. That's not going to be the case every time, because I've run into that too. But you can try and steal something of theirs, hopefully to try and ramp, or maybe you're trying to get an artifact that will answer somebody, like deal with a threat that's on the battlefield. Um, like, let's say someone's got like Sliver Overlord or something like that, and they're searching for slivers, and that's going to be an issue if you can't deal with it. Well, that one of the other players has like a pithing needle or something in their deck. Okay, you swing at them. Maybe you play some politics there. They let you swing just to deal with the other threat that's more of a threat, obviously. And you search for a pithing needle, you play it, name Sliver Overlord, and now he can't search his library for a sliver card. Something like that. Okay, so yeah, that's basically, I don't know. I just like this as a commander over my other choice before. Anyways, enough rambling about that. Let's talk about some of the specific cards that are in here. So, let's see. We'll start with creatures. There's a bunch of creatures in here that, like I said, steal things or copy, whatever, all that stuff. So we have a Sea Singer. So this card, it's not a bad card. It's just a 3-drop 0/1. It's not great, as a 0/1. It's really not good if there's no islands in play. This one though, yeah, if you don't control any islands, you have to sacrifice this, but you can tap it to gain control of target creature if its controller controls at least one island. You lose control of target creature if this leaves play, or you lose control of Sea Singer, or if it becomes untapped. And you can choose to not untap it during your upkeep. There's a few cards that do similar things to that. Like you can keep them tapped, and then it's your upkeep. You don't have to untap them. And as long as they remain tapped, you get control of, what a creature or whatever. So, not a bad card as long as your opponents control an island. We have the Dominating Lizard. This guy's kind of interesting because he's a 1/1 guy, a 1/1 creature. You pay 3. He loses the ability to turn into an enchantment, but he turns into an enchantment that reads gain control of enchanted creature. And then you move it onto that target creature. And then it gains the ability, or it doesn't gain an ability, but it says you may pay blue to end this effect. So it can go back to being a creature again. And I guess it's kind of an interesting ability because it's not an activated ability. I remember reading about this one time before, but nobody can actually respond to that ability. I don't remember exactly what that's called, but you can pay a blue to end the effect and it goes back to being a creature again. And yeah, like I said, they can't respond to that. Nobody can really respond to that. It's kind of interesting. Okay, so then we got the Perplexing Chimera. This guy's kind of cool, actually, because, yeah, so you put it into play. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you can exchange control of that spell with this creature. So you put this guy out, somebody plays something, and it's like, okay, yeah, I'll take that. I'll take control of that, and you can have this. One thing I found out recently between these two cards, actually, I'll just go back to this guy for a second. There was a game where I was playing and I had these two in play, and I gave control of the Perplexing Chimera to somebody. And what I ended up doing then was putting this guy out, taking it back. So, like, I got control of their spell by giving them the Perplexing Chimera. I then took it back with this. And then when somebody else played a spell, I gave them the Perplexing Chimera, turned this guy back into a creature. So he's back on my side again. And then I tapped him, turned him back into an enchantment, stole the Perplexing Chimera back, gave it back to somebody. I kept doing that until somebody board wiped or whatever it was. But that kind of weird thing, I just kind of I didn't even really think about it when I was putting these cards in there before. It just sort of happened. It's kind of a funny kind of interaction. You gain control of their spells, give them that creature, take it back. You just keep doing that. The Phyrexian Metamorph guy, he just comes into play as a copy of any artifact or creature on the battlefield. The interesting thing about these copy things is that it doesn't target anything. So even if it's a creature or like I guess an artifact that has hexproof or something or shroud, you can still make a copy of it. That's something to pay attention to because you got to look for that target keyword. And if it doesn't have that, you can make a copy of it still. Cal Suppressor, this guy is kind of like the Sea Singer. Comes into play, an opponent chooses a creature type. And you can tap this to gain control of target creature that isn't that type, as long as it remains tapped. And you can leave it untapped if you want to. So, basically with this, yeah. So you put it into play. Let an opponent that has like less like the least threat on the battlefield or something. You let them choose a creature type, and then I don't know. They're gonna pick one of their creature types, of course, normally, and then you just sort of you can gain control of something else. So give it to the guy that's like the person that's like the least threat on the battlefield, and then you can take control of whatever else with that. Clever Impersonator, it's kind of like the Phyrexian Metamorph guy, except this is any non-land permanent. Spark Double, this card's really cool. If you take control of a legendary creature or a copy of a legend, or make a copy of a legendary creature, or if you want to do this on your own commander, you can make a copy that's non-legendary. This gets really stupid after a while and really kind of funny. Because then, if you have this copy, you can make a bunch more copies. We have other cards in here that make multiple copies of a creature. So if you take like, I don't know, you take somebody's like Elish Norn or Vorinclex or something stupid, that's legendary, or make a copy of it that isn't, and then start making a bunch more copies for yourself. That could get really out of control real quick. Phantasmal Image. This comes into play. A copy of any target creature on the battlefield. It's an illusion. When this creature becomes a target of a spell or ability, sacrifice it. There's this wall. It comes into play as a copy of any creature on the battlefield. It's a wall in addition to its other types. Has defender. You tap the other creature that you copied. It doesn't untap as long as you control this. So that can kind of shut down some creatures that you don't want swinging at you. The Cryptoplasm. During your upkeep, you can have this become a copy of another creature. Oh, this is target, but this is a target creature. If you do, it gains this ability. So at your upkeep, you can keep having it change into a different target creature if you want to. Thalakos Deceiver, this guy's Shadow. When it attacks and isn't blocked, you can sacrifice it, gain control of target creature. It's kind of a nice card. Spark Double, another copy thing, but it has flash. It can copy as a creature. The Sphinx Ambassador, this, when it deals combat damage to a player, search the player's library for a card. That player names a card. If you searched for a creature card that isn't a name card, you can put it on the battlefield under your control. That player shuffles his or her library. So it's kind of a lot. It's a 7-drop. It's a 5/5. But if you can get this thing out with early ramping with your commander, taking people's mana rocks and stuff, this could be really annoying to deal with for them. Mirror Image comes into play as a copy of a creature you control. So it's like one less. It's a 3-drop instead of a 4. It's one less than a lot of those other copy ones, but you can only copy your own creatures. So you could make a copy of someone's creature with one of the other cards, like Spark Double, or gain control of one with that dominating Listed, something like that. And then for one less, you could just make another copy of it. So I don't know, not a bad card, I guess. Clone, another one of those copy things, 4 cost. This guy comes into play. You can exchange control of target land you control and target land opponent controls. So let's say there is no islands in play that an opponent has. You can give them one. Maybe they have a card that's like, I don't know, Maze of Ith, or I don't know, some stupid utility land that you don't want them to have because it's just too good. Or like, what's the one where they can gain control of all their creatures? Kind of drawing a blank on that, but there's a land that they can gain control of their Homeward Path, I think it is. They could gain control of the creatures, like all the creatures that they own, and you don't want that. So you can give control. You can give them an island. You can give them an island and take that from them, so they can't take their stuff back. We have the Vesuvian Doppelganger. This comes into play as a copy of, I believe this one actually says target. No. Any one creature in play. Okay, nope, it doesn't target either. And then I believe at this one, at your upkeep, yep, you can change it. So it's like a combination of the copy ones when they come into play, and then that one that did it at your upkeep. So, but it costs 5. So it's it'll be a little bit more to get it out. Body Double, this is the same thing. It's a copy, but it's a copy of any creature in a graveyard. So if you're playing a long game and a lot of creatures died and there's nothing to target on the battlefield, you may have targets in the graveyard. That's why this is there. And then again, you can start making copies of your Body Double copy, and it could get really interesting. The Gigantoplasm, this guy comes into play as a copy of any creature, but it gains, this creature has base power, toughness XX, so you can pay X for that. So let's say it's like a creature with like Infect or something on the battlefield. You put this into play, make a copy of it, and you can pump it up all of a sudden. So it's probably going to be possibly more of a threat than the other one that's out there. Or you could take someone's commander, or, well, I guess you can't do it with this because it's just a copy of it, but there could be some really nasty creatures that you can make this a copy of, and then you can pump up its power and toughness. This card, you can gain control of target creature with power less than or equal to the number of creatures you control. This card can be good, but it's not always great. I don't know. It's okay. There's another copy thing, but you can embalm this guy for 5. So you can, bring it back. Let's see. When you embalm it, I think, if I remember correctly, that exiles it from your graveyard. It comes into play as no mana cost. It's white, and it's a zombie. Yeah, so you can bring this guy back. Sword of Temptation, when it comes into play, gain control of target creature for as long as this remains on the battlefield. That's a really good card in this deck. It's really helpful, especially when you can make a bunch of copies of that guy. Okay, so we got the Veldican Shackles. This is kind of like some of those creatures where you can tap it, gain control, and then you can choose not to untap it. So that's basically, like I said, the theme of this deck is just to take everything or make a bunch of copies. Like I said, it's not going to be, competitive by any means, but it's just fun to play. And like I said, you're going to get hate. People have told me straight out that they hate me and they hate my deck. And, that's just how it's going to be with this. But it's fun. And I find that, like, it's just fun because a lot of people's decks revolve so much around their commanders. Once you start taking their commanders away from them, their decks don't do a whole lot sometimes. And it's kind of funny. But the interactions with this deck and other decks, it can have some really funny things that can happen too. But anyways, so here's some artifacts. Cold Steel Heart, it's just like a mana rock. We got the Chaos Wand. Pay 4, tap it. You can target opponent exiles cards from the top of the library until they exile instant or sorcery. You may cast that without paying their mana cost. You could just like hijack their spells with this. Lightning Greaves. You can give equip creature haste and shroud. Helm of the Host. You equip your creature with. You can equip a creature with this at the beginning of your combat. You make a token copy that isn't legendary. That token gains haste. So again, if you were to take control of a legendary creature or a copy or something like that, and you had this in play, I mean, this can get real stupid real quick. There's a lot of really nasty legendary creatures. If you got this out, there's a lot of craziness that can happen. We got a Mimic Vat here. When a non-token creature dies, you can exile that card. If you do, return each other exile card to Mimic Vat to its owner's graveyard. So you pay 3, create a token that's a copy of a card, exile with Mimic Vat. It gains haste, exile it. This is a really good card in this deck too, because let's say this is in play and you have a bunch of copies of things, or you stole a bunch of creatures and somebody board wipes, Wrath of God or Damnation or something like that. You just lost everything. Well, you can still start making token copies of those creatures. It's just going to be for a turn each, but it can be really interesting still. There was one time I had this out and a Clever Impersonator died. Well, to be able to pay 3 to put a token copy of any non-land permanent into play for even just a turn is really good. Somebody had a Dictate of the Twin Gods out at that time too. So at any turn, I could just, or as long as this is untapped, if an opponent was attacking another player, I could just flash in another Dictate of the Twin Gods anytime I wanted to do double damage again. So it's like I could just choose if an opponent were to, if someone wanted to kill one of the other opponents, I could just flash that in, and that's what I did that game. And then by the time that turn was over, it would be gone, and I wouldn't have to worry about 2 Dictated Twin Gods being out. And for those of you that don't know, Dictated Twin Gods is a enchantment. It's a red enchantment. I believe it's all damage is doubled or something like that. That might not be exactly what it says, but it's something like that. And it has flash, so people can just flash it in. But yeah, so being able to have a Clever Impersonator under this thing is just really good. Everflowing Chalice, another mana rock. Elixir of Immortality. I don't know if you want to shuffle your library and your graveyard together in case you're getting milled out or something. We got a Sensei's Divining Top, Mirage Mirror, pay 2. It becomes a copy of target creature, artifact, or enchantment, or land until end of turn. Blade of Selves. This card was kind of questionable, but I threw it in here because it seems like it could be really good in some situations. You pay 2, equip creature for 4. When equip creature has Myriad, so when it attacks for each opponent other than defending player, you may put a token copy of that creature onto the battlefield. Tapped and attacking, that player or planeswalker he or she controls, exile the tokens at end of combat. If you had, like I said, a copy, or you had someone's creature or something like that, and you put this on them, I mean, it could get really gross, and it could be really funny if there's ETBs. And it's just, this deck is, like I said, it's not meant to like always win or whatever, and this is not like a deck list I found online. I just threw a bunch of cards in here that have the same, like, similar theme. It doesn't really depend on the commander to be in play. It's more just like shenanigan type things. If I had a Fleshbag Marauder that somebody had and I took control of it, that's the black zombie that when it comes into play, each player sacrifices a creature, I believe it says. Let's say I had that, and I stole that from somebody, and they didn't sacrifice, they sacrificed something else, so it stayed on the battlefield. I gained control of it, put this on it, and I start swinging each turn, and, there's 3 opponents. So I have the Fleshbag Marauder, swing, it creates 2 more when it swings, and each player sacrifices 2 creatures every time I attack with that thing. So, seems kind of good. And then, I could just sacrifice the 2 extra Fleshbag Marauders that I made, and it's all good. but you could just keep having your opponent sacrifice creatures. So it's just situations like that. There could be better ones than that. That's just what I thought of off the top of my head right now. We got the Nyx Lotus. Pretty straightforward card. You tap it to get mana equal to your devotion of that color and a Soul Ring. I'll kind of speed through this a little bit here, but Mind's Dilation. When you cast your first, when an opponent casts his or her first spell each turn, that player exiles the top card of his or her library. If it's a dollar card, you can cast it with a paying mana cost. It's a high cost for this, but I've had it in play a few times. It's a good card, especially when you could play something like this on it, Mermaid. You pay 3 for this. You can copy any enchantment or artifact on the battlefield. You make 2 of those. I've done that before. So each time an opponent casts their first spell each turn, you can get 2 of their non-land permanents, possibly for free. Really good. War Tax is just kind of like a way to prevent people from swinging at you or give them, add attacks to each creature that is going to be swinging at you. So creatures can't attack this turn unless their controller plays X for each attacking creature, so you pay X there. Dissipation Field, when a permanent deals damage to you, return it to its owner's hand. Persuasion, you can enchant a creature, you gain control of it. Legacy's Allure, this at your upkeep gets a treasure counter. So you sacrifice this to gain control of target creature with power no greater than the number of treasure counters on Legacy's Allure. This is good if you get it out early in the game. Aqueous Form, enchanted creature can't be blocked. When it attacks, scry 1. That's pretty good. Followed Footsteps, this card's pretty good actually too. It's 5-drop, but you can enchant any creature, even your opponents. During your upkeep, you put a token copy of enchanted creature on the battlefield. Okay, sure. Enchant whatever creature and you just get free copies at your upkeep. Yeah, that's pretty good. Dream Leash. You control enchanted permanent. You can only do it on a tapped one. This card, really good. Somebody has some nasty big creature. Maybe it's unblockable in play. You play this. You gain control of it. It gains Infect. That's stupid good. Steal Enchantment. You pay 2. Gain control of enchanted enchantment. Control Magic. Pay 4. You control enchanted creature. Got a Rhystic Study here. I'm sure everybody knows what that is, but if not, when an opponent plays a spell... Okay, this has to focus here. When an opponent plays a spell, you may draw a card unless that player pays 1. Mind Control. You pay 5. You gain control of enchanted creature. Okay, we got some instant. There's not a lot of instants here. I know. Mono blue, no counters. Well, there is one. Counter target spell if it's an artifact or creature. You basically get that instead of it going to its owner's graveyard. So you get something out of that. Cackling Counterpart. Create a token copy of a token that's a copy of target creature you control. So like I said, you steal something or copy something, for 3 at instant speed, and there's a flashback. You could just make a token copy of it. You and target creature or target opponent each untap and gain control of all creatures the other controls until the end of turn. Those creatures are unaffected by summoning sickness this turn. I put this in play for people that make a bunch of creatures, like token copies or something, and you're like maybe about to die to it the next turn or something. So you kind of turn the tables on them and swing everything back at them and kill them. Something like that. You just, for 4, you take control of all their creatures. Maybe you don't have any. Okay, here, take my 0 creatures. I'll take your 5,000. Kill them. Quasi-duplicate is just like the Cackling Counterpart. Make a token copy, or a token that's a copy of target creature you control. Mass Manipulation, gain control of target creatures and or planeswalkers. Tempt with the Reflections. This card is... Yeah, so this card right here is you choose target creature you control, put a token copy of the battlefield, or token onto the battlefield that's a copy of target creature. Each opponent may put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of that creature. For each opponent who does put a token copy onto the battlefield, that's a copy of that creature. This could get really dumb. I did that one time with Sower of Temptation just because it'd be funny, and everyone's taking control of all these different creatures. It was really interesting. And there's been a few times where people have copied that, so then there's even more, and it's really insane. Telemann performance. Target opponent reveals cards from the top of his or her library until he or she reveals a creature card. That player puts all non-land creature cards revealed this way into his or her graveyard. Then you put that creature card into play under your control. So if there's nothing in play, nothing to steal, nothing to copy, use this. Hopefully you get something good. They reveal until they get a creature, and then you get it. Hour of Eternity. Let's say a bunch of creatures you had died, or your creatures that copy things. You can exile them and bring them back as zombies, but then they come in as a copy or whatever again of whatever you target with it. So it's kind of a way if you had a bunch of stuff. I've had like big board states on before, and all my things have died, and you put this into play, and you can bring them back. If you have enough mana, you can bring a bunch back. Clone Legion. Target player, for each creature target player controls, create a token copy that's a copy of that creature. So if they have like an army or a lot of things going on, you can make tokens of each one. This card, you can exchange control of 2 target creatures. I did this one time with some people I was playing against. I gave them control of each other's commanders. So it's more just a funny card, or if you got some lame creature and they got a better one, you just exchange control. But when you exchange control of people's commanders, their decks don't really function that well sometimes until they have an answer for it. Windfall, discard your hand. Everyone draws to the maximum. Stolen Identity. This is another thing that you put a token copy into play, but it's got Cipher, so you cipher it onto a creature. When that creature deals damage, you can do it again. Potentially, when you play that, on the turn you play it, you could do it twice. Acquire, this is just like, you pay 5, you get to look for an opponent's library for an artifact, put it onto play under your control. It's a good card if there's nothing into play to steal. Bribery, same thing. You get to look for a creature, though, put it into play. This card is really good. Right of Replication. Pay 4, make a token copy of a creature. You could kick it, though. Pay 5, kick it, and you can put 5 of them in play instead. This can get really stupid. Again, we're trying to steal things, make copies, some stupid creature, if you can make it non-legendary, if it's legendary, and then make a bunch of really interesting, really, really stupid for the other players, like real quick. So that's all the permanents besides the lands, and then, instants and sorceries. The land's pretty simple. We got Castle Vantress, you can scry to. We got Mystic Sanctuary, and we got Rogue's Passage. The rest of them are all islands. I have 35 lands in here total. And yeah, that's, like I said, that's pretty much it. I keep these in here too because I make so many tokens and so many copies that I just kind of keep these as just generic like placeholders. I put them next to the creatures that are copies of them, or that these are copies of. But yeah, these are just in here because I never know what I'm going to be copying. So they're just generic placeholder cards. But yeah, that was kind of just like a pretty in-depth, long breakdown. Maybe I'll split this video into 2 parts because it's so long. I don't know. But for anybody that's interested in watching these types of things, let me know. I have like 10 commander decks that I've worked on myself. I've kind of gotten ideas for things online, but I put my own spin on things. And like I said, again, this is not supposed to be a competitive deck. This is more like fun. Sometimes it doesn't do that great. I've only won with it a few times, but it's just more of like a fun deck. It does weird, janky things. It can, depending on what's in play. And it does upset people. So keep that in mind again, like I said. And like I said, if anyone wants me to do any more like this, or whatever, if it gets a bunch of views, maybe I'll do some other ones like this too. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.